think about when you're born into a fire. Let them burn it out. Sell them to the richest buyer. They wanna let the world decay. They tell us lies and fade away, fade away. We feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. Listen up now, because we're never dropping out. Beat the odds, beat the big house. The brains are bigger than the doubt. We've been thinking for ourselves, never let the truth fade away. This is bigger than ourselves, we won't let the world burn away, burn away. We feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. To play, haters face the world's mistake. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. And we feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. To play, haters face the world's mistake. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. What you think about when you're born into a fire. Let them burn it out. Sell them to the richest buyer. They wanna let the world decay. They tell us lies and fade away, fade away. We feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake
friends. Welcome to Making an Impact on a special Friday night as we're going to be here talking Hard to Kill, which was a fantastic Impact pay per view. I am the foe, Cody Defoe, if you didn't know. And this here is my wonderful co host, the natural, the wonderful, the amazing Astrid Pizarro. How are you tonight, Astrid?
Feeling a little bit better. Sorry if I lose my voice ahead of time, just saying, but I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm doing good. This pay per view kind of made a tough week, or a tough day specifically, but a long week come to a nice close here. Looking forward to a good weekend after a great way to end the week.
Yep.
Just right off the bat, hopping in the comments. HPC too sweet. Ed Fries, nice to see you guys popping in there. Thank you for joining us. Would love to hear from you what you thought of Hard to Kill tonight. I think we're just going to jump right into it. There's a lot of action, a lot of
Mhm.
matches happening tonight, and a lot of big things coming out of this Impact pay per view. So let's hit the ground running here, Astrid. We had the countdown to Hard to Kill, started half an hour before the main show on Fight TV, kicked off right away with the six-man X Division match featuring Kushida, Speedball Mike Bailey, Yuya Uemura, Angels of the Design, Action Mike Jackson, and all 73 years old, and a last minute switch that wasn't really explained. Bhupinder
Mhm.
Gujar was supposed to be in this match, but we noticed as the match kicked off that we had Delirious filling in his spot in this match. Hello, Bobby. So wonderful to see you joining us here as well. Glad to see you could make it. Astrid, let's kick off just before we get into the match itself. What do you think happened with Gujar? Why did we get Delirious here?
Like you said, I was just looking at this. One of them does not look like the other ones on the graphic. Which one was it? And it took me a moment to notice it was Delirious. To be honest, I saw it, but I didn't think like Bhupinder got removed. I was wondering who was, and then I noticed it was him. Don't know why. I didn't see an explanation so far. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I didn't hear like Tom and Matt didn't mention or acknowledge it at all. It acted like
Mhm.
Delirious was supposed to be there all the entire time. It was really odd, really weird. Hopefully, it's nothing bad. I think Gujar's got a bright future in front of him, so I'm hoping that there's nothing negative that comes out of this there.
Yeah.
The match itself was a lot of fast-paced X Division action, usually what you'd expect in this kind of situation. They gave most of the guys a real spotlight opportunity there. Kushida got kind of the first spotlight. We got a segment of Angels kind of getting his licks in. We
Mhm.
got Uemura and Delirious kind of shared the spotlight. They played up the fact that those guys have been working as a team as of late. Um, really kind of played up that tag team cohesive dynamic between them. Speedball got his moment to shine. Action Mike Jackson got his moment to, make a suicide dive and walk the ropes for a little while. And then the inevitable happened. Right as Speedball's looking to hit the ultimate weapon, we get Kenny King, as we expected, as we thought was coming.
Yep.
Um, did anything from this match specifically stand out to you before? And if you want to talk about the winner as well.
Just like the spot with Mike Jackson, like that spot of him doing like the dives towards the ropes. I'm like, at his age, I was not expecting it to be super, with a bunch with a speed to it, but it still was impressive. Like, there was also a part, I believe there were towards the corner in the turnbuckle. I thought it was gonna end up being some kind of what to call it, like the tower terror, what we call it, whatever it's called. But I love having like Mike Jackson like just walking through the ropes with Angels, just doing it carefully so he doesn't fall, and then having him in the corner diving onto everybody. I love those little parts that they give him for him to shine, either with his age and with the younger guys around. But yeah, just like little parts that like we expected. We knew Kenny King was gonna make his presence known since he wasn't booked for the pay-per-view, so it didn't take me by surprise that he was there. And like we mentioned, like taking out Speedball and taking him out of the equation in this match, I feel like it does help in that sense of like it doesn't hurt Speedball that he lost his way because he wasn't pinned at all either. And I'd like that we had a little bit of like Ellen Angels taking control of the match as well, and that Yuya and Delirious had their double team that we didn't expect because he wasn't advertised at first. So I like seeing that and playing off even with the storyline during the match. Um, like just like Kushida winning those was the part that was surprising me the most, because like we were mentioned, it's like okay, Kushida's not there, so he doesn't really benefit for the win. So why should we have him win? And then we went through the process of elimination with everybody, and we never thought Kushida would win over people. I kept thinking they'll probably give it to somebody who needs the momentum. So Kushida was definitely it took me blind. I was like, well, I'm already losing this pay per view as it is, but I'm glad it was a good surprise though.
Yeah, that brings me to my next question there. Kushida winning this match and getting a lot of spotlight in this match. He's been absent from Impact for a while. He's been around the globe. He's been everywhere that matters as far as wrestling goes. Getting the win in this match, are you kind of leaning towards the idea that maybe we do get Kushida spending a little bit more consistent time in Impact again now?
Then you mentioned that, and I just logged into Twitter while we were getting ready, and I saw that he had a graphic for him versus Darby Allin. So I was like, "Oh, it looks like he's going on a tour now between Impact and AEW at the same time." So that's nice to see. But yeah, just I don't know where they would take it with him. So like we're be saying, he's hasn't been on TV recently for us to like really pick a direction for him right now. But I feel like at the same time that's something exciting because you don't know what's going to happen with him next.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of keeps us guessing when we see guys coming back that we don't expect, and maybe wondering who's the next one that's going to come in and maybe take a run or get a winning streak off. As Barry says, with Mike Jackson, though, it was nice to see that he didn't end up breaking any bones or die in a wrestling ring or anything. I did want to point out that part with him walking the ropes, holding Angel's arm up, though. I appreciated how they still ran that segment, that as he's walking the ropes, the rest of the guys weren't just laying on the outside
Yeah.
waiting for something to happen. They came in and they had the guys knocking each other down and taking each other out behind Angel's back while Mike just kept walking in the square.
Yeah, I
It
noticed
was a
that too.
nice touch to keep the
Hmm.
action going there. And like
Yeah.
you said, Kushida with the win, quite surprising to me too is that Angels is the one that took the armbar for the tap out. With
Mm-hmm.
Delirious being there, with Mike Jackson being there, it's surprising to see Angels of the Design being the one to take the loss there. Wondering
Yeah.
if we get something next week of Diener going after him for the failure again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very true.
Um, and then the other match that we got on the
Hello,
countdown,
Carl.
Carl, nice to see you. Thanks for joining. It was a very impressive show and definitely a lot of fun to watch
Yeah.
there. The countdown show between Trey and Taurus was not supposed to be a countdown match. There
No.
was supposed to be a 6-woman knockout match between the Death Dolls against Savannah, Giselle, and Tasha Steeles that
Mm-hmm.
didn't actually end up happening. Spoiler alert, that match wasn't anywhere on this card without any explanation.
Yeah.
Yesterday on Impact, we didn't have our Making an Impact for the Thursday night show, but Taya Valkyrie did get taken out backstage. It didn't look like a bad injury, just enough that she
Mm-hmm.
couldn't be at ringside for the match. So they didn't really give us a reasoning as to why this match was canceled or postponed, but it didn't happen. So
Yeah.
instead, we got the X Division Championship on the pre-show as well. Trey Miguel versus Black Taurus. This was a fun match. This was a really good X Division. We got all of the X Division action on the pre-show tonight, which I'm a little
Yeah.
disappointed in. But the main show was so heavily stacked. It really got me hyped for the show to see both of these. How did you feel about this being on the pre-show and the match itself?
Yeah, it caught me by surprise because after that we had when they opened the pay per view they had it done was Temple salute, and Giselle Shaw and Savannah had their gear on. Tasha didn't, so I thought it was weird that they had the gear on, but no match happened whatsoever. I thought maybe they will play off of like Taya got injured, but at least they could have had a regular tag team match there and just had Rosemary and Jessica instead, and just leave Taya out of it. But so I thought that would happen at least. And I wonder if it's something that happened with the time constraints because we thought at least the pre-show would have started at 7. Some graphics had it at 7, some graphics had it at 7:30. But once I was like waiting for it, there was a countdown for the 7:30, and I was like, well, you could have started at 7. We could have had that match too. So I wonder what really happened there with the time constraints. So it's kind of surprising to see Trey being in the pre-show as well. I feel like something that could come up later with him as a character too, because he was on BTI not too long ago when you said his last name was missing on the graphic, and now this time around too. So I wondered later on he would kind of point that. I was like, well, I've been in like the pre-shows or like the BTIs, and I haven't been like featured like Astrid as a champion. So I kept thinking like maybe they could implement that later. But yeah, just like still the match itself was. I enjoyed it a lot. I feel like I didn't have a bad match tonight, which I'm glad for. There was no part that I was like really let down in any way whatsoever. But yeah, I love the parts between both of these and Black Tour showing off his power like he did in one of the spots around the turnbuckle too, and the ending itself. I was I was not surprised by it, but I enjoyed how it happened, how it played off too. So I really enjoyed how the match happened, and just I was just surprised it happened on the pre-show though.
Yeah, I think you're right there. That I mean, it's what I suggested to Trey that I kind of got
Yeah,
shot back on by our X Division
yeah,
champion was the fact that he was on BTI. But I did get corrected a lot, and I'll own up to that. That BTI does not. It's not the equivalent of like a main event on the competitors programming or a dark or an elevation. BTI is still can't miss action week in, week out. There's never any drop in quality. There's never anything there that suggests it's a lesser program other than the fact
hmm
that it's given away for free as opposed to the $1 on YouTube. Really,
yeah,
you're going from free to $1. The quality of the programming isn't really going to differentiate too much. It's
hmm
all must see when it comes to Impact programming. Trey always makes his matches must see regardless of where he is on the card. This match was as heavy hitting and as high paced as what they did the first time around in the tournament. We both had that same feeling that Trey wasn't going to lose this. This is just the piece to wrap up this story between him and Decay. Taurus looked really, really good again, though. There was nothing that I
yeah,
really saw of his that was a misstep that looked bad. The fact that when he caught Trey with the Meteora earlier in the match, that was like a really strong showing of power by him to catch the guy's knees on his shoulder almost perfectly.
hmm
Um, there was the point I noted of the pop-up Samoan drop that Trey flipped around into a crucifix bomb. And then the reverse of that, where Trey came running down the ramp, leapt the ropes into the ring, and got caught into the Samoan drop. The tope flip to the outside that Taurus caught, looked like he was going to do like a pile driver or something, and then Trey flips it into the sunset flip on the outside. So much fun there. Taurus did kick out of a Meteora as well, which is something of note. It's why Trey's been moving away from the Meteora as his finish, I think. But just the fact that it was his finish and we're seeing Taurus kick out of it really cements the fact that the Meteora isn't going to be that finish anymore. And I noted that this night, this crowd specifically was very, very split. That we had consistent chants of Trey and
yeah,
Taurus battling back and forth.
yeah, they do.
Yeah, absolutely, Barry. They do work really, really well together. Taurus has really impressed me on this recent run he's been on. He's definitely deserved these title matches for sure. Um, I also noted that just before we hit the finish, Trey hit what I'm pretty sure is a crossroads.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's what Cody Rhodes was hitting as the crossroads. But Matt and Tom reacted and called it the lightning spiral. And put his feet on the rope. The refs caught it, canceled the pin. And then after Trey pulled out and spray painted Taurus, he hit the real lightning spiral, which was not the same move that Tom and Matt had been calling a lightning spiral 2 minutes beforehand. But Trey wins the match, retains his title. No real surprise there. I don't know that there's much more you can do with this story. Obviously, he's won with the spray paint both times, so you can try and fight and say that there's got to be another stipulation. But the X Division's so strong, and a lot of these guys are just kind of hovering in the multi-man matches without anything happening, that I'd like to see Trey move on to a Uemura or a Gujar or Delirious or somebody else in that X Division match from before this one.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed that finish too, having like the two spray cans of like using one as a distraction, using the other one on Black Tours too. It just made me think like based on the victory, maybe Kushida could be the next person to face Trey. But it's I'm glad that there's so many possibilities at this time now that he's done with this chapter of Black Taurus that we really don't know who's going against him next. So that's the part that I'm really excited about. It's Trey Miguel. So either way, whoever he goes against is still going to see the show. Either way, like you said, they have great chemistry. I really enjoy this match too, and it showed a little bit of both of like Trey's speed and agility, and then Black Taurus' strength and power. So I feel like it was a really great mix and a great way to like really end the pre-show.
Yeah. After this, and Barry did touch on it a little bit. So I was also watching the YouTube pre-show stream before jumping on to the Fight TV broadcast. But it did kind of run over into the start of the pay-per-view proper, into the Don West tribute, which is how we kicked off. We had the in memory of Don West. We had the entire roster at the top of the ramp, the 10-bell salute. It was a nice touch. I know we did the Don West memorial last week when he actually passed. I felt like that was a nicer tribute, but it was nice to see the roster all come out and stand in solidarity in his honor as well. And then we get into the match that's been built the longest on this card. There's a lot of good stories that had built coming into this, but this match between Josh Alexander and Bully Ray is the one that everybody, it was the headline of the graphic, it was the big poster picture, it was what everybody had been waiting for 6 to 8 weeks at this point. And it didn't disappoint. No, this match, before it even started, I mean, Bully came out first, as the challenger's apt to do, and then he disappeared. He left the ringside. He made his entrance and then he made his exit. And so Josh is coming out, and obviously Bully makes the blindside attack, busts him open, beats him down before they even actually ring the bell to start the Full Metal Mayhem. I don't know what the necessity of not needing to ring the bell was. It's Full Metal Mayhem. Just ring the bell. Both guys are going at it. It's fine. Yes, Josh was busted open. He was very much busted open, and maybe he'll have an episode of Busted Open soon enough. But this match hit on a lot of different points for me. It surprised me with how quick they bloodied each other up, the violence, the table destruction, a lot of things that came so early in the match, but also hit on every other point of the story along the way and really closed the chapter to a point that I don't see any reason why Bully would need to have a rematch. What do you think?
Yeah, I feel like it was a good way to close the chapter with them. So to me, it wouldn't make sense at this point to have another match with Bully Ray either. I wouldn't as well. I would definitely move on to Steve Macklin at this point. And I love Josh, but I wouldn't mind if Steve just won the championship from him, of all people. I just didn't want Bully Ray to win it, which I'm glad it didn't happen.
So we get a little bit of time on the road now between here and the next Fight TV show, which will be Rebellion in April. I don't know that you take this title off of Josh after this historic reign. It feels like this is a reign that has to end in a big show, which is why I picked that I thought Bully was winning tonight. And obviously I was wrong. I had listened to Ed's kind of suggestion on what he thought may come and kind of convinced myself that he had a good point. So, Ed, I know you're listening. It's your fault I got that prediction wrong. No, I feel like you've got to do something to hold over Josh now. You've got No Surrender coming up in February. I feel like there's another show in March, although I don't know what the name of it will be. And then we'll get Rebellion in April. And I feel like Rebellion has to be where you look to get this belt off of Josh. And let Macklin have that opportunity to really take the next step. Macklin's been in a holding pattern. You can play the story. You can let it build over the next couple months. Maybe Macklin loses his matches by DQ, but still keeps coming after Josh. There's lots of ways you can do this. You have to build to it. It's the most logical and most realistic story, and the only way I think this plays out at this point. But I don't think it has to happen right this second to take the title off Josh yet.
Yeah, that's very true. I think you can definitely build up to it.
The match itself, the points that kind of stood out to me, the cheese grater is always an odd touch in a hardcore match. The ladder spot with Josh being flipped off the back of the ladder onto the thumbtacks, that's one of the highest falls I've ever seen onto a tack spot, so that kind of looked extremely painful to me. And then the part with Jade, Josh's wife, Jen Alexander, Jade Chung, whichever way you want to call her, who was supposed to have stayed home. Tom and Matt told us at the start of the match that Josh told his family to stay home. He didn't want them there for this. And Jade comes down from the ringside, makes her way into the ring while Josh is zip-tied to the ropes, gets in between him and Bully. Bully's there with a garbage can, threatening her, demanding that she take off her wedding ring and hand it to him and beg for him to show her mercy. And finally, as he's about to swing the can, inevitably she hits the low blow, pulls out a pair of clippers and clips the zip ties off of Josh. Finally, this woman stands up for herself. We all know she's a professional wrestler in her own right. She can hold her own in the ring. It was nice to actually see her own that part of herself and really just stand up and not be the damsel in distress that she's played a little bit in the Moose and the Bully stories now. So very, very happy to see Jade stand up for herself and fight back. Josh gets Bully beat down, puts him on the table, climbs back up to the top of the same ladder he'd been knocked off of earlier, and puts Bully through. Surprisingly, Bully kicks out, but Josh goes right into the ankle lock and makes Bully tap instead of just the 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, and I just wanted to point out the parts of like we had that moment of we also had Hotch and Skylar come in at one point, and here I'm already thinking like, oh no, this is the downfall of the match for me because I'm thinking here's coming Bully to win it, and they came right on to assist, and he did a 3D on the thumbtacks to Josh, and right after that we get Dreamer coming out. He takes out Hotch and Skylar, and here he comes in the ring, comes face to face with Bully, and he gives you that facial expression of like he looks like he's teaming up with Bolivar, just like smiling, and he gives him the trash can to hit Josh, and Josh is basically just screaming, just like kind of like the sort of moment like he couldn't believe this was happening with Dreamer of all people, after Bully had attacked him not too long ago, and then Dreamer turns around and he turns it around on Bully Ray, and Bully spears him through the table as well. So those little parts of like that when he did the facial expression at first, he totally got me because I was thinking, oh no, here comes Bully to win. I'm about to cry here. I'm thinking I'm gonna end this match in tears. Um, but seeing Jade come in, like you said, having her like bring that power during this part of the match and just hitting Bully with the low blow and even the sliced bread in the corner, I was like, chef's kiss. This woman was amazing doing this, and it just like it reminds me a lot of Maria when Maria did those spots of like when the Kingdom was in Impact as well. We always pointed out how we were so impressed with the way Maria was selling everything, and Jade really got that with me tonight too. I enjoyed her performance. I enjoyed having her there. The thing I kept thinking is like, you're telling me that Josh's wife went to Atlanta with a Josh knowing? Yeah, right. Yeah, right. I don't believe that 1 second. But no, it just like having her there definitely made a difference to me. I knew it was kind of I knew even though they said it because of what happened before, but I didn't believe that the moment they kept mentioning in a commentary, Josh's family is not here. He told them not to come, and they said it a few times at first during his entrance, and it made me think I really don't believe this because I feel like Josh is always with his family, especially with these big matches happening. So when they said that, it kind of gave me the idea something was happening with Jade, but I wasn't sure. And then seeing her through the crowd was definitely like the exclamation board for this, and not only having payback for her husband, but for her as well. And when her holding on the ladder for Josh to just take out Bully Ray towards the end, that was just amazing to watch. And it's like a perfect picture at the moment at the ending as well for them. So I love how it happened. I love how everything played off. I'm glad Bully Ray's not a champion.
No, I was the gullible one. When they said she wasn't there, I was like, hey, that makes sense. Glad they mentioned it because it makes sense in the story. I was the one that was buying what they were selling, hook, line, and sinker.
Let me bring you back in because it wasn't true.
um, no, this was well placed. It was a good match to kick off the main show with. Everybody wanted it. It got it out of the way. And the main event that we got instead was the match that really deserved to be the main event either way. Um, the lady friend I had over, my girlfriend that was watching this with me, was not so impressed with the low blow, but either way, it was impressive to see her hit it. There you go. There's your answer. She stole
That
Gujar's
makes a lot of
flight ticket.
sense.
I
Now.
like it. Thanks,
Thanks.
Barry. That's my canon answer now. Is that's why Gujar wasn't in the match. After this match finished, we went backstage where we saw Mickey having a conversation with Tara, aka Victoria, who she is a close friend and has been in Impact with her for most of her time there. And Raven enters the discussion. I didn't really pick up anything specifically from their conversation that stood out to me. Did you have anything from this that you noted?
I like how even he didn't want to give like a negative towards view towards it. He's like, well, if you retire, like I'm here, but I still like whether like you win or lose, like I still just wanted to be here. And it's like you just reminded me of Undertaker with the microphone. Looked like a preacher to me when he with the microphone that he had like this. So just like I don't know if I like Raven looking like a preacher to me right now. It felt kind of random at first for him to come in, but I know there were also like both him and Tara were there are special guests this weekend for the pay-per-view and for the meet and greets and stuff like that. So it felt nice to see them on screen as well. And having just like Tara give her like crying. I was like, either way, I'm here for you, and I'll be on ringside. And can I say, it's like, can we have Victoria for the Hall of Fame, please? This woman is just incredible, and she's done so much. I love seeing her there. I wish we would have seen more people that that Mickey James has had in her career for so far, and her friends too, like more than just Lisa there. I think I would have liked seeing that, but either way, I love how this played off on screen.
Yeah, Raven at least made sense to me, especially when they played that package of Mickey last week, talking about her history, how she started in Impact, how she came back to Impact, and when she first started out, it was with Raven that Raven kind of helped her get her foot in the door in Impact and helped her get experience in the ring and grow as a performer. So it was nice to see him back. It really kind of gave that authenticity to her retirement tour, that he is there to support her and potentially her final match of her career. And then Tara as well, as somebody that she's had many feuds with in Impact and been close friends with.
Yep.
That was all well and good. And then we got more chaos. We got our tag title match with the major players. We had Motor City Machine Guns, we had Heath and Rhino, and we had Bullet Club Light, Ace and Bay. And again, because apparently to start this show, we just can't start matches after the bell rings. Everybody has to brawl and cause chaos before we ring the damn bell. This match to me was probably one of the weaker of the night. I feel like it wasn't a loss necessarily. It
Mhm.
just it didn't engage and enthrall me the way the rest of the show did. So, how did you feel about it?
I like the pacing of it too. I like how that we had so much speed going on towards it, like kind of what like we got with the X Division. We saw a lot of. I feel like they gave me that vibe. The only thing my order of my eliminations would have been that order we had tonight. But other than that, I enjoyed the match and the pacing of it more than anything. And even having people like the major players, coming in and still, even with the elimination, still come in and cause chaos through it too.
Hey, Haloko, how's it going? Thanks for dropping in. We're talking some hard to kill tonight. Thanks for joining us. This match, I think, again, we were kind of backwards on the order of the first two eliminations, both of us in our predictions this week, but I don't think it changed too much. Heath and Rhino being the former champions and having just lost the belts, it didn't necessarily hurt anybody for them to go out first, as they were just coming off a loss anyhow. It lets the major players still be somewhat of an issue in the match. Obviously, the idea of the elimination match was supposed to be that these four teams could finally resolve all their issues, and whoever left this match as champions should, in theory, be able to move on in the division and have all three of the other teams behind them. That's not what happened. And it's kind of what I predicted a little bit yesterday as well, when I said I thought that the Machine Guns were going to retain their titles. I thought there would be some kind of shenanigans in here that allowed them to hold on in such a way that it gives Ace and Bay an opportunity to say that they deserved a rematch coming out of this, where we can actually get a fair 2-on-2 Sabin and Shelley versus Austin and Bay match. And Ace and Bay absolutely were the dominant team. They were the standout. They looked absolutely fantastic at every step in this match. Sabin and Shelley never look like they've lost a step. Just Ace
Mhm.
Austin and Chris Bay, what they're doing right now, what they did in the Best of the Super Junior Tag League, and what they're doing now coming back to Impact. It is a miracle that nobody in Impact decided to put these two together sooner than they did, because these two just gel absolutely perfectly together. Their combo of the art of finesse into the fold is one of the coolest combo finishing moves that I've seen as a tag team potentially ever. Like one hit into the next, as opposed to like a 3D where you're working together to hit. It's almost on Twist of Fate into Swanton Bomb levels.
Yeah, I love the double teams between them. They're so great together, and I love the points of like we have like usually like Ace Austin do the little handstand to avoid the strikes and stuff like that. And even then, like towards the end, having them versus the Machine Guns is what the part that I enjoyed the most. And I wish it would have been a little bit longer than what it was. And I was just like, this is the moment that you get those titles to Ace and Bay. Like just put the exclamation point on them right now. And I was just disappointed that it wasn't them. I don't get me wrong, I love the machine guns, but I feel like Ace and B are doing such a great job as a tag team right now. I would just put the titles on them right there then tonight, the way it played it off. But that was the only part. But I think we were I know I had they eliminated Heath and Rhino first, and then the major players. But the major players stayed off. They were supposed to leave, but they stayed in. They played a part in a little bit of the match. And just like another part that I enjoyed also with the machine guns when Shelly's holding the middle rope like this for Saban to dive in as well. But yeah, I would have just wanted Ace and Bay to win this match, but aside from that, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, the other thing I noted from this match, because I kept track of the eliminations, none of the teams ended up having more than one elimination. You had the major players eliminated Heath and Rhino when Cardona rolled up Rhino, and you had Chris Bay ended up getting the pin on, I believe it was Brian Myers that they hit with the combo move,
Yeah.
the art of finesse into the fold. And then you have obviously Saban and Shelley get the win by eliminating Ace and Bay. So each team only ended up getting one pinfall out of this match, which kind of made it hard to believe that any one team was that dominant when they each only got a single pin.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fair comment, Barry. They do still have a little bit that they're misstepping, but I feel like just the chemistry is so good there.
Yeah.
They're not a tag team in the sense of what Saban and Shelley are. Saban and Shelley work as such a cohesive unit with a lot of double team moves and always having each other's backs. Whereas I think Ace and Bay just have that speed and ultimately I'll call it finesse because that's what it is, that they can work as individuals in a way that still feels like they're doing it together. This match finished and we got our first big surprise of the night. As Saban and Shelley are walking out of the ring, we get the familiar beats of the music for one Frankie Kazarian, who comes out as a nice little reunion at the top of the ramp with Saban and Shelley. My initial thought is Kazarian bringing back a tag team partner and going after these tag team belts?
Thank you.
That like is are we going to have Frankie Kazarian and Christopher Daniels back in the Impact Zone chasing tag team titles? Because sign me up. I will take that in a heartbeat. Those two against Saban and Shelley again will be like a dream come true. But instead, Kaz comes down to the ring, grabs a microphone, talks about going back to AEW, feeling like he's out of place, feeling like he wasn't happy with where he was. Earlier today, he confirms that he has signed a long-term contract to be back in the Impact Zone as an Impact talent. This is a huge piece of news. I am surprised this never broke anywhere else. They did a really good job. They kept this until the day of so that nothing leaked on this. Frankie Kazarian coming back to the Impact Zone after that match he just had with Josh Alexander is a big, big win for an Impact roster that has been losing a fair amount of talent recently and really struggling to hold its head above water in terms of recognizable name talent. Putting Frankie back in the mix, even if he's not in a title picture, Frankie is a guy that can help a Skyler, can help a Hotch, can help an Anthony Green. Any of these guys that are coming in as younger talents are going to benefit from having a guy like Kazarian in that locker room with them. And yeah, Barry says too, if it wasn't tag team titles, I wondered new GM as well. Scott D'Amore's replacement, but that's news for later.
No, I thought the same thing you did. Like I expected him to come out and introduce his partner because I was just waiting and he didn't have anybody beside him or like didn't give a moment for anybody to come after him. So once he hit the ring, I thought he was gonna say, "Oh, I just wanted to have a partner to go against the machine guns," meaning that they just had an interaction on his way into the ring. So when he said I went back to, I thinking about what he did last year. It was like I won the exhibition championship. I went with the option C and I went for the world title. It's like everything that I did and I went back to where I was. And then I feel like it didn't fit with what's going on there. And that made me realize that I wanted to go back home. So I'm just signed with Impact again, and it's an incredible get, like you said. He's such a big name, has just such a legacy there that it doesn't matter where he's involved and whoever he's going against, they're definitely going to benefit from that. So it's great to have such an original comeback around this time. They really, really needed it. And it was just amazing to hear that. And then I saw that, it's incredible that he asked for his release from AEW. It was granted. He wasn't doing anything in AEW after everything happened with SCU, unfortunately. Just thinking like he's one of the people that just started building off AEW and went back to Impact now. But I feel like he was being used better in Impact in the little time he was there what he's done in AEW aside from being champion. So I'm glad that he's definitely here. Just definitely take advantage of him while you can. I just want to see what he does next and what storyline they give him going forward after this.
Yeah, we didn't get any kind of hint as to where he was going next. It was just the announcement of his contract signing. Obviously, we'll get to build more on that and see where it goes. But it's definitely nice to see that Kaz has made the choice to come back where he started. From here, we go right into the next match, which is our Digital Media Championship match between Moose, Dancing Moose, Scumbag Moose, Wrestling God Moose. I'm not sure which Moose he was supposed to be tonight. And say his name. Say his name, and he appears. I believe in Joe Hendry. Do you believe in Joe Hendry?
We all do.
We all know. First thing that caught me, though, is the number of Moose chants in the crowd tonight. He had a huge supporting cast in that Impact Zone tonight in Center Stage in Atlanta. I think it's partially because he played for the Falcons, but it took me off guard for how loud that Moose chant was. How did you feel about the match as a whole? I'll let you break this one down.
I thought at the beginning it was the Moose Loose chant, so it took me a moment to realize that we're actually chanting to cheer him. So I was definitely surprised by that, to be honest. I really like the chemistry. Like we had that part of Joe Henry already picking up the microphone to start, and before he even gets a word, Moose just takes it out of his hand. I was hoping he would have another one somewhere else and just keep talking like nothing happened really. But I really like having the back and forth between these two. For me, it was more like than anything the ending, because Moose just used the title to distract the referee, and he just low blow to John Henry. So you're thinking, oh, he's winning after this, so he wins the match, and I'm thinking, I'm disappointed because I feel like Joe Henry was such a good high note right now. So why would you take the title away from him?
Sad. We were chatting back and forth after this. I was almost in tears. My inspiration had just lost.
I kept looking at it and I was like, did this really just happen? But why? Everything was going so well up until this happened. And then we get a theme song coming up, and it's another than Santino Marella with his Cobra. And he comes up and he just says, oh, I'm here to replace Scott D'Amore for the moment. As the kind of like the GM role for him.
The director of authority. Santino Marella, DOA.
And he said, we're supposed to have confetti and I don't know this and that. And then he talks to his microphone's like, cancel the elephants, please. He comes down and he's like, well, I don't like how this played out. So, and then having like Moose cheat to win. So I just want to restart this, if anything. So the match restarts. It doesn't last much after that. And then we have Joe Henry again as champion. I thought it was fun the way it played out like this. When I heard the theme song, I just didn't think of Santino at first until I saw the graphic on screen. It's like, this I didn't have this in my bingo card for 2023. Good to know. And I like how you showed me how he had a like shirt and everything. Always like, look at him working out really fast too.
They mentioned it later in the night, actually, is why I went and looked it up. They're like, yeah, there's a new Santino Marella DOA shirt on the Shop Impact website already. I'm like,
it's what? Like, I thought AEW was fast, but Impact is just right there now with the t-shirts too. But no, I just like I love having how this played off in the end of like Santino introducing himself as the GM. I kept thinking because of what we thought of after what happened, just who else would be the GM, and then I laughed because somebody just randomly tweeted as a joke Dixie Carter, and that made me laugh. But I know they wouldn't be her, but I just didn't think of who could actually do it. So Santino is definitely not anybody I would have had on my list if I had one. So that definitely surprised me. But I love how it's played off on screen of having Joe Henry still be champion at the end because I was so disappointed of was winning it, to be honest. But I'm glad it happened the way it did.
My favorite random who could be Impact authority figure that I saw was the photo somebody put up of Stephanie McMahon. Because how funny would that have been if Stephanie showed up in the Impact Zone? But we know it wouldn't happen. This match, going back to the match itself, I really felt like we've seen a lot from Joe Hendry of, the Hodges, the Raj Singhs, the smaller guys that he's been battling prior to this feud with Moose. I felt like this match just really amplified just how strong Joe Hendry is. Moose is not a small man. Like, Joe Hendry stands pretty close to the same height as Moose, but Moose is not a small man. This man used to be an offensive lineman in the NFL. That's a big boy. And not once, but twice in this match, Joe Hendry had him up for long stalling suplexes. The second one on the outside of the ring, he literally walked a quarter of the way
Yeah.
around the ring
Hmm.
while holding Moose above his head. The show of strength there, the trust fall where he tossed him over the top rope to the outside of the ring, and then even at the end of the match after Santino came out and restarted the finish because Moose hit him in the scrotellia region or however Santino put it. That trust fall where he had Moose up with the one hand in like a chokeslam, like he does for the standing ovation. That's a powerful man. And this was just a powerful statement for Joe Hendry to actually get the win over a former Impact World Heavyweight Champion in Moose, really elevating just what the standing of the Digital Media Championship is, but elevating Joe Hendry up the roster in such a way that he feasibly could be a world title competitor by the end of 2023.
Yeah. I don't know if Eddie was showing this earlier, but come on, Barry, how could you be a Moose fan? No, we believe in Joe Henry in this household.
I mean, unless you're a fan of Dancing Moose, and then I can support you. And as far as Barry's comment about the Moose arm pumping, the only arm pumping I was seeing in the crowd, I feel like we're from Moose's old Atlanta Falcons teammates. And as a non-Falcons fan, anything that Falcons players do isn't to be taken seriously. We move in to a recap of the countdown. We give a recap for anyone who missed the countdown show of what happened in the six-man match involving Kenny King taking out Speedball Mike Bailey, and then a backstage segment of Kenny King just kind of calling out Speedball, explaining why he was on, why he said he wasn't going to come back until next week, but then he still came back to Atlanta today, and basically questioning Speedball. What are you doing in a wrestling match when we have this pit fight coming up next week? We're not going to wrestle. We're in a pit fight. There's no wrestling in a pit fight. We're going to knock each other out, or we're going to tap each other out. And so it was a nice way to kind of let Kenny King have that last say leading into their match next week, where he didn't say a ton, but it was enough to kind of remind people this match is still happening and get people looking forward to Thursday. Was there anything else that Kenny put in there that you wanted to note on?
No, I think it was just like simple and to the point for him, so I was not expecting any less.
Yeah. Four-way women's knockout number one contenders match. Masha Slamovich, Killer Kelly, Deonna Purrazzo, and the witchy Taylor Wilde. I'll let you take us on the ride of this one, Astrid.
I love how when they started, they actually pointed out like unlike the tag team one, there was no elimination towards this one. There's one pinfall and that was it. And another part that I enjoyed it was there wasn't a moment that there was no action going on. There was always at least two women inside the ring doing something. So even when we had two of them outside, there was still two inside the ring doing something, which I liked. There was no pause or no awkward like resting point at this in this match. Um, but like how we started, we had like little combinations. Like we started with Diana and Killer Kelly, and then we had a little bit of Taylor Wilde going on here. I know there's a part where I think it was Diana that she slipped out of the ring when she was starting with Killer Kelly. And I love how Taylor Wilde just like like pushed her in again. It's like, no, you're taking this. You're not really staying outside. Um, so I love that part. There's also another part when Diana had, I think it was Keller Kelly in a submission, and Taylor jumped in and took the other leg too. And there was also another one that I really enjoyed was a double submission they had at one point. It was Killer Kelly with Diana in one part, and then Taylor with Masha. And I like how in commentary they played it off and say, "So what does the referee do if both of the competitors, having to tap out at the same time?" It's like, what happens here? Like we feel like he's in a tough position at this point. Um, so I loved it that part of it too, and I I like how there was a chemistry between all the girls. I feel like I'm glad there was not a good there was not like a lot of time for Taylor Wilde there. It was I feel like the other girls kind of were shining more than she was, and at that point it made me realize it has to be one of these three somehow. And either way, I thought whoever wins this match is the one going against the winner between Jordan and Mickey. So I'm good with either of one of these three. So we had at the end is Masha doing the snow plot to Taylor Waller for people, and I kept thinking, yes, please let this be it. And then we have Masha winning this match. I'm glad it was against Taylor that she won of all people. So it makes me feel good that we won't have Taylor Wild for a little bit going on. We'll have Masha and then hopefully the other two girls. And if it goes back to Taylor Wild, then she will have her opportunity for a little while. But overall, I enjoyed the match. I think it would have been fun if it was more of an elimination match, but I like the way it played off on screen with the girls, and we have now Masters than I one contender.
Yeah, you said a lot of kind of the same thoughts I had there. I can kind of echo it and just talk about the points that really stood out to me. The first one was there wasn't a lot of 1v1 interaction in this match between Masha and Killer Kelly. Somehow, despite there being 4 women in this match, they managed to keep those two away from each other for a lot of it. We had very brief teases of them. And then they flipped around and ended up back with Deonna and Taylor in some combination or another. That's a match I want to see. It's a match that you build towards. Both of those women have been made to be so dominant. They talked about how Taylor Wilde still hasn't been pinned in her Impact career. Sorry, did I say Taylor? I meant Killer Kelly. But she hasn't been pinned in her Impact career. You talk about Masha, who hasn't lost a match other than the 2 title matches against Jordan. Deonna as a former champion and really the standard bearer and gold standard of Impact Wrestling over the last handful of years. And then Taylor Wilde, they really addressed her career as like an original Impact Knockouts tag team champion and someone who was here a long time ago and has just kind of come back around again. I felt like this was looking like it was going to be one of Taylor Wilde's strongest matches. And right as I went to write the note that this actually looks like it's been a better match for Taylor, there was the spot where she stomped Killer Kelly on the ropes onto the apron and then climbed back up onto the ropes and basically just intentionally rolled herself over the ropes into Deonna Purrazzo's arms. And I was like, what was that supposed to be? That looks like you just intentionally climbed into her arms to get powerbombed. And so I had to retract my note about Taylor Wilde looking better and question the fact that what is she doing in that ring sometimes? Killer Kelly looked absolutely amazing in this match, coming back from her time off that she took. Masha looked amazing as she always does. Deonna looked amazing. The point at the end there where they had Killer Kelly had Deonna in the Killer Clutch, and Taylor Wilde had Masha Slamovich. I believe it was in an ankle lock or something that she was trying to lock her into there. And for a brief, very, very brief moment, they actually had me convinced that we could see somehow or another Masha and Deonna tap out at the exact same moment because I'd seen the graphic promoting the Fallout show this weekend where there's a Killer Kelly and Taylor Wilde match scheduled to happen. And I thought, is that match going to be a follow-up to this one as a 1v1 because they co-shared a victory tonight? They proved me wrong. Masha broke out, hit the snowplow on top of Deanna and Killer Kelly, got the pin over Taylor Wilde, and once again, for the third time in 3 months, Masha Slamovich is now a number one contender to the Knockouts World Championship. Putting her in this spot where we're now going to have 3 title matches in a row for Masha Slamovich, there's no way you don't pull the trigger on this. Is there?
I mean, I'm torn about it.
Without spoiling the end of the show, in case people are watching us without having to watch, although I feel like our comments and our friends in the comments have all, they're all well aware of what happened here. Without jumping ahead on ourselves, Masha being a number one contender again already, how do you not pull the trigger? How do you have her lose a 3rd title match in a row?
Yeah, I kept picturing it this way, and I made me so torn about it because in my mind I kept thinking Mickey has to definitely win the main event before the match even started. So when Masha won, it's like, okay, Masha and Mickey, we haven't seen that yet. Great. But I kept thinking, does Masha lose? Because I wouldn't have Mickey just lose right after having such a big victory tonight, whenever they face each other, because they haven't said when she will face Mickey. So that's another factor towards that. So we'll see when that does happen. But it just made me think, it's like, okay, Masha losing for a 3rd time, that doesn't look great after having such an undefeated streak for a while. So that doesn't look great on her end, but it as well doesn't look great on Mickey's end, and she loses that quickly after just winning tonight against Jordan. So that's what definitely made me torn about it. I just don't know what would happen there, unless for some reason somebody says, "Oh, I deserve an opportunity as well," and they jump in and bring somebody else that would take that pin in there to save Mickey and Masha. Maybe that's the only thing I could think of for the moment so far.
Yeah. Is it a situation where you put Jordan in that match again and Jordan has to take the pin again?
Yep.
Or do we bleed this out a little bit, for lack of a better term, that Jordan gets her rematch before Masha gets to take her number one contender shot?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm definitely
Do we
torn
go
about it.
Jordan and Mickey in a rematch at No Surrender before we get to Masha and Mickey further down the line?
Yeah, most
Spoilers.
likely.
As I say to avoid spoilers, and then I give them myself.
Uh-huh. Strike one.
No, it's a very interesting conundrum that Impact have put themselves in now, though, with wanting to keep Masha at the top of the line, wanting to keep Masha as the strongest woman in the division, but not actually sitting to pull the trigger on her. And in a way, almost reminiscent of Macklin, but done a little differently, that it's almost obvious who the next champion has to be, but a matter of when do you pull that trigger.
Yeah.
Speaking of Macklin, that's where we went to next. We go backstage to Gia Miller standing by with Rich Swann to talk about the upcoming match against Steve Macklin, which is a Falls Count Anywhere in Atlanta. I'm not quite sure why we needed to add the in Atlanta. Were we afraid that these guys were going to travel up to Nashville and pin each other at their, home base? Or I'm not sure why we needed the in Atlanta, but it was an interesting touch to add the match. Macklin jumps Rich before they even get the interview started. I don't even think they turned Gia's microphone on for this because I couldn't hear what they were saying.
Mm-mm.
And they just decide these two are brawling backstage. Falls Count Anywhere. Let's just ring the bell. Nobody gets an entrance. We're going to start the fight in the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
Or the trash dock, I think, is technically where we were, because we were battling against garbage cans. Macklin ended up getting thrown in a giant dumpster. We were on a parking ramp. We were out on the street. Somebody was trying to drive out of the parking lot, and Macklin tossed Rich Swann into the guy's car. It was a fun way to start a match. I've always wondered why Falls Count Anywhere don't do something similar more often, where like you literally brawl around the building. Like a Falls Count Anywhere can literally go anywhere.
Anywhere. Mm-hmm.
Um, so the idea of a match like this where you don't even get an entrance, it just starts somewhere, almost like the old school where we used to get boiler room matches and things like that, where the match starts wherever the match starts. If it finishes at ringside, great, but you could have a full cinematic match of just a falls count anywhere.
Yeah.
Um, that was one of the points I had, was that for a backstage cinematic, whether it was pre-recorded or acted live, it was actually a really, really well done backstage fight, I thought. Some of the cuts felt a little awkward to me. The fact that they'd cut to a camera at a different angle, where if this person was actually there when they cut to it, I thought you should have been able to see them. But perhaps I just wasn't looking close enough. The fight backstage, the bouncing off the car, the all over the different locations and stuff. How did you kind of feel about that and the match as a whole?
Like you said, it's just the part that it went anywhere around there. It's just the part that I enjoy the most because you have matches that had those kind of stipulations and they just stay just kind of like outside the ring in that area and that's it. So I'm glad they just started where it was. They didn't wait for them to go in the ring either, which I liked. Just I feel like it would have been a waste of time too. There was like little parts that he did a cut on the sidewalk to him, and I was like, "Holy moly!" I love seeing like the visual stuff like that. Literally outside of like you walking by and you see two wrestlers in a paper just going on in the part in the parking lot too when he just speared him to the barricade. And even with the car, I like how they kept mentioning commentaries like, I hope whoever's in that car has a great insurance. Um, but I love like the scenery, like it literally just went anywhere in that arena and the venue, and it wasn't just secluded to like or is reserved to the ringside area. So I love that. Like we had C Macklin win. It wasn't a surprise to me. I feel like Swan didn't have anything going on for him to win, so I'm glad Steve did. I'm just hoping that you definitely use it as that way of bringing him into the title picture now after Josh defeats now that he Josh defeated Bully Ray. So I'm just hoping that that's the motivation enough, and like we have Santino as GM, so does Santino make it happen because Scott D'Amore didn't? Maybe.
No, Santino will have an issue with how violent Macklin is. He'll put him in the Cobra. Or Macklin will have to like take out Morella and D'Amore will come back and make the match, maybe.
Yeah.
I did want to note the part where they were brawling on the other side of the ramp from where the car was and behind those barricades, and you saw the car come driving behind them up the ramp before they actually went around to the side with the car. It reminded me of back in the early 2000s on the Nintendo 64 playing the WCW Backstage Assault game. Because I remember there was a set there where they were actually in a backstage area where you'd see the cars consistently driving by as you were wrestling. And it just gave me flashbacks to my childhood playing that game. So that was a nice touch there. I felt like once they actually got to ringside, though, it almost felt like the pacing of the match just kind of lost a step. It felt like it slowed down a little bit. Lots of hard hitting, heavy hitting action, but it was a lot slower moving, a lot more kind of hit a big move, take some time, hit a big move, take some time. Um, Compared to what they were doing in the backstage, where it felt like it was hit after hit after hit. And ultimately, yeah, Macklin gets the win. The KIA in the ramp where they came up from the backstage area and pins Swan on the ramp over the stairs at a very awkward, like sloped angle for the pin there. Ultimately, what we expected. Macklin has been consistently top tier for quite some time now. It would have been a big surprise for Swan to win this match. I think this really just puts the nail on Swan there. He can fall back to the back of the line for a while again. Not much else to say about this one, I don't think, eh?
No, not really.
Okay, I feel like I'm doing a lot of the talking, so you can lead us into the next match, Astrid.
Well, next up we had Gresham versus Edwards. Let me just say, I'm glad we finally get like a good Gresham entrance. Because the last couple of weeks they just haven't like come in and the entrance have been so awkward. And it's like I feel like where's the theme music? Where's the octopus mask and everything? We didn't get those details, so I'm glad it happened this time around. Um, I was gonna say there's I not that there was a match, but I don't have any like particular spots that I can point out though. There was just a part towards the beginning of it though when I think it was Eddie that he chopped Gresham, and then there was an arm drag afterwards too, and the way it happened too. But overall, just I like the pacing of the match. They had I feel like a good back and forth, and it was at a point that I wasn't sure who was gonna win it. It's like from my end, like I kept thinking of the storyline because I from my ankle, like I said during the predictions, I kept thinking, well, Gresham, like this is the first like big match he has an impact since returning like this, so why would you have him lose? But at the same time, I kept thinking, well, Edwards doesn't have anything going on after everything happened with Honor No More. So just like, what if we go really from here after whoever wins this match? And one thing that I'm glad it came up, and I said it in the predictions too, we finally get PCO back as well. It's like finally we get his presence back. I like how he was spitting the sand out from to Eddie when this happened to. Is like those little details. Like I was buried alive, and definitely had that in me. Um, but before this happened, we had Eddie win the match, and that's when PCO came out. We also had signs of this happening during the show last night too, because we had the lights come off and they were flickering after Eddie was in the ring too. So that gave me like the sign of I was going in that route with the PCO appearing, and that was before we even saw what happened on Thursday because we recorded that Wednesday, and and this happened with Eddie on Thursday. So I'm glad that I had a connection, but like he made his presence known after the match, so it definitely gives us a sign of like we'll have Eddie and PCO going forward. But it just like it made me think of like what does Gresham really go from here after having a loss. It just that's the part that made me like think of what would happen really with him in the future and Impact. But I think overall it was a good match. I like the pacing they have with each other, and I'm glad this happened after so long now. It's been what this I think 9 months since everything
Yeah, they
happened.
said 9 months on commentary that
Yeah.
since Eddie took out Gresham before the multi-man match. Um,
Mm.
just as Barry says, Gresham is a great wrestler, and this match really just amplified and exemplified that for me. That the entire idea of this match was the contrast of the styles between Gresham and Edwards. Gresham as a technical, pure wrestling expert, compared to Eddie as more of the brawler, the striker, the hard hitter. And I liked early in the match, you had a lot of that ring psychology come into play. You had Eddie trying to take this outside to brawl and go hardcore and hit hard. And every time he tried to get Gresham outside of the ring, Gresham would just outsmart and outmaneuver him and bring it back into the ring and be like, no, we're going to do this in here. I'm not coming out onto your turf. Um, and then just once Eddie finally came in and the match started going in the ring, Gresham just put on an absolute masterclass of technical wrestling, just catch as catch can, as well as I've seen anybody do it before, like to a level that would make Pete Dunne look like an amateur almost. Like that's how good I thought Gresham looked in his just seamless transition from move to move to move to move throughout all of this. Eddie eventually manages to take control with just a bunch of strong, stiff hits, takes Gresham off his feet, takes him out of the rhythm, just starts beating down on him. And then Gresham finally he has enough and just stands up and decides to exchange the strikes. And being the smaller man, he wasn't necessarily getting the upper hand in a striking battle between the two of them, but he took some stiff shots and he was dishing them out as well. Some of those chops that I noted were Eddie, where he was the chop to the chest, and Gresham was coming at him like full on, just like slamming his chest into Eddie's hand as opposed to falling backwards from it. I would love to see this again. This match, I said it on our prediction show that I thought this match could steal the show. Ultimately, I think it came close. I think this match was, being the pre-main event, the last match of the night before we get into the main event, was a good spot to put this because these two guys are two guys who deserve to be in a position at the top of the card. And then, yeah, like you said, lights out, lightning strikes. French Canadian Frankenstein shows up, spitting the sand out. It took me a second, too, to realize that that's what he was spitting out. The shovel that he picked up out of the sand that Eddie used to bury him with takes out Eddie. Obviously setting up that feud is not done yet. Gives Gresham an opportunity that this match is done. Their feud with Eddie is at least kind of neatly put away for the time being. Gresham can go and really start his Impact career anew. PCO and Eddie can go back and continue their feud for a while. Now, we go into our main event.
The real
And
main
this,
event.
the real main event, the title versus career, the end of the last rodeo, the match that has been built and really crescendoed into the night as everything coming together, everything at ringside, the vignette that we got a couple weeks ago, all of the different talk and stories and everything leading up to this playing out in such a perfect harmony for Mickey James to take the fall, leave on her back, and ride off into the sunset with her son and her family, and go off to just enjoy a nice post wrestling career. And then that's not what we got. I know you had strong feelings about this, so I'll let you kind of close out our show with your thoughts on it. I'm going to give mine because I feel like as much as hard as they were pushing to make me want to believe that this was going to be her retirement, this was her farewell, this was her last rodeo, this is, you know, the end of the Mickey James era, bringing Tara, bringing Raven, bringing her mom and dad out who never attend any of her shows, having her son in the audience, having her family there. It just felt like too much. Like they were trying too hard to make me buy into what they were selling. She got the big special entrance. She got the big celebration, the really fancy special ring introduction that she'll either leave as champion or leave forever. The match itself really held up as a strong showing. It was no fault of the match itself. Both of these ladies put in an absolute tremendous effort. Again, Jordan's entire title reign has just been hit after hit after hit of top-notch wrestling matches. Jordan can still use some work on the mic. I think we're all in agreement that she still has room to grow. It's not that she's bad. She's not bad. She's not awful, but she definitely has room to grow as an artist in her work on promoting herself and promoting her matches and really selling her character and really just designing who the Juggernaut is. But her work in the ring cannot be knocked. It everything she did hits hard, sounds hard, looks hard, and even when she's taking it, it looks just as hard. The kick out of the McDT to start, and then the sleeper at the end really. It didn't feel like the end, but it felt like it would have been a fitting way to put Mickey out, would be to put her to sleep and put her out for good, which may be a little bit of a foreshadow of maybe how Mickey does ride off eventually into a chokehold or something down the line. It was a cool way to go, though, that Mickey finished with just a tornado version of the McDT.
Yeah, I was trying to prepare myself mentally for whichever way it went, but I'm glad it went the way it did. To be honest, it's just a part of like I know it will be. I wouldn't say difficult, but it would have been kind of odd if you think about it from Jordan's side of like she's been doing great as champion, then she loses to Mickey. So where does she really go from there? In that aspect, but having Mickey as champion is definitely the part. And I kept thinking after having Masha win, I definitely thought this has definitely to be Masha and Mickey going forward. And I also thought this has to lead somehow to another Mickey James Royal Rumble appearance as champion. And perhaps now that Triple H is part of creative, we do get her named as Knockouts World Champion during her entrance. Like you said, she had her entrance showing her Native American heritage, which she doesn't really. She has it with her gear, but she hasn't had an entrance really showing off that. So that already gave me that feel of like this is definitely her winning this match with the way the appearance is happening. So I definitely had from that moment. We had moments from the beginning that Jordan was really showing off her power. Mickey just wanted to do like a roll up, but she ended up holding on to Jordan's leg, and Jordan just kept, dragging her on and holding on to her. And there was so many moments that we see them go back and forth, but Jordan definitely showing off that she was stronger coming in compared to Mickey. There was just parts of Mickey, which she was trying to do the make DDT, but she couldn't really turn Jordan the way she needed to. So she turned into a guillotine, and those little moments of like the regular stuff that Mickey does wouldn't really work as well as Jordan because of her power. So that's definitely something that they really showed off in there. There was a moment that she also did a superplex from the top rope, and she turned into the Juggernaut jackhammer, which I really enjoyed seeing visually there as well. Um, and there was like so many moments. There was also a muscle buster that Mickey did for, and then it was changed to a roll up. And just when the sleeper was happening, just seeing that part of it, I was thinking, oh shoot, I didn't want it to end like this. And it's like she definitely looked like she was about to give up there, and I was like, no, please don't end it this way. And it's just like they had that moment of like Mickey's eyes were closing, so you're like definitely like in the verge of thinking it's ending here. But I like how she showed off her strength and she put her right arm up, and she's like, no, I'm not giving up. This is not it. And she, like you said, towards the end, changing into that tornado DDT slash Mickey DDT for the win, and having her family be there and having her son be there ringside. The only person that was really upset was Nick Aldis. I wish he would have been there because I feel like I definitely would have showed up a little bit more. Her part of her victory there. But yeah, I'm just excited because now, like we said, just going forward, we don't know when because they haven't announced officially when, but having Masha and Mickey somewhat in the future for a world title match, that's definitely something I would like to see. I would like to see her go against Killer Kelly too. It's another one that I had on my list, so definitely that's another one for me. And like I said, a Royal Rumble appearance would be another thing that I would like to see as well, especially now with Triple H in charge. I think it could be even more. It could go differently for her as well. So I'm really just made me excited for it because I'm going to Impact next week for 2 days, Friday and Saturday. So I'm really really excited because now, hopefully, the Knockouts World Champion I get to meet there. So I would definitely would love to see that. Um, but the way this happened, I'm glad this was the main event. I knew, like they mentioned it, I think it was before Impact started yesterday, that this was the main event. I knew that Bully Ray and Josh was very important, but it definitely Mickey and Jordan felt they needed that exclamation point of being the main event, and it's amazing to see that the first pay per view of the year for Impact they have the Knockouts main event, which is really important. I was just disappointed that they have the Knockouts tag title match, but to end with this match is definitely worth the wait. So yeah, we have Masha and Mickey going forward. We don't know when that's gonna happen, so that's still exciting to think about. But I'm thinking if like Mickey James is champion, definitely love seeing it. Don't like that visual of the ending her and with her son just celebrating everything. I loved it. I really did. So she's definitely happy. I almost cried, but I knew I couldn't cry right now. I was still stuffy from everything, so I had to hold it off. But definitely congratulations to Mickey James on being world champion. I like ironically this is her 200th match in Impact, so what a way to have the match end with her being champion and a 24-year career in Impact and still going strong.
Yeah, one almost an Impact original at this point. That she's been around since her time with Raven at the very beginning, back and forth with WWE. But this has really showed that despite all of what she's done in WWE and how her career really took off in WWE, Impact really is still her home. It's where she's felt the most comfortable. It's where she's really made her name matter, where she's been able to be her own character and be herself and be who she truly wants to be, start to finish. And whether she goes back to WWE and represents again at the Royal Rumble or not, whether she takes this chance as a title run to really just solidify herself as a first ballot Impact Hall of Famer, however this title run goes, I think it's a really strong way for her to go out on her own terms and go out on top. I know this is the end of the last rodeo. There's no more of that. I'm wondering if we have no more last rodeo. She's the champion now. Does this mean she's not actually going to be looking at retiring, or when she loses this title, is her title loss going to be the end of her career?
Yeah, that's something I was thinking about as well. If like when she loses that match, does she retire after that, or does she still keep going? I also loved another detail that I forgot to mention is that when Jordan turned around with her gear, like her gear in the back says "last stop," as if she will last the last stop in Mickey's rodeo. So I love the detailing like that. And even at the beginning when she was introduced, she got booed a little bit because people are definitely cheering for Mickey James on. But overall, I love the match between these two. If we do get a rematch, I wouldn't mind seeing it anyway. But definitely exciting.
Yeah, No, it was a great way to end what was actually a really strong show overall with no real misses. The tag team match was the low spot of the show for me, and it wasn't low by any means. Um, that said, it's been a couple weeks. I haven't been able to make the show for a little while. Happy to be back. I'm just as hard to kill as Mickey James, apparently, that I made my way back to our wonderful Making an Impact program. Appreciate the team for covering for me in the last little bit while I haven't been able to be here. Astrid, we're going to go back as we always do. Who was your impact maker for tonight?
I mean, by the way I said it, you probably get an idea, but it definitely has to be Mickey James. I love having her win and be Knockouts champion right now.
That's fair. It's absolutely fair. I'm going to go almost the exact opposite side of the field here. I'm going to say my impact maker for tonight is the new director of Authority, Santino Marella. Because he saved the title run of my man, Joe Hendry. Mm-hmm. He saved a digital media champion. He took care of business. He was very unexpected. He was someone nobody saw coming. He was himself. The last time we saw Santino around on Impact programming, he wasn't Santino. And now he's back as Santino Marella. He's owning that character that we all came to love during his runs in WWE as the comedic, fun guy. And he's doing it in a way that's going to be a really, really enjoyable time as the director of Authority while we wait for Scott D'Amore to potentially come back and take his role back. So really looking forward to where this goes going forward. I don't always love the Authority figure on TV, but I've always been a fan of Santino's, and I'm looking forward to having him consistently popping up on Impact for the next little while now.
Yeah, definitely going to be fun now.
Yes, Parrish. Thank you for being here 2 weeks ago. Thank you, Ed, for covering both of the last couple weeks while I've been away. I am back for the next little bit now. There's one a couple months down the line that I have to miss for something else, but that's neither here nor there. I am here. Astrid will be here for the next little bit until she takes a vacation and a little bit of time off. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, guys. I am the Foe, Cody Defoe. You can find me on my Twitter at Cody Defoe. I tweet a lot of the stuff just promoting when we're going to be on air next and our shows. You can always pop in my comments and join me talking anything Impact Wrestling or anything wrestling in general. We'll be back on Thursday, which is where you'll see me next. Barry, you are absolutely right. 5-second champion. That's what we have to be. Moose is now a 5-second champion. He can be dancing Moose for 5 seconds. Astrid, where can our friends find you?
You can find me on my Twitter at Astrid Bizarro. Instagram is Astrid Bizarro 20. You can find me again on Tuesday doing Taking Over with Ed, and then going back with you on Thursday doing Making an Impact. Also watch out on my socials for the NXT review with Women's Wrestling Talk, who I'm about to read in just a moment after this. But no, we want to thank everybody for staying in the chat with us, having an active chat tonight, talking about Hard to Kill. I know we have probably had to catch up on SmackDown and Rampage, but I definitely had to watch Hard to Kill before anything tonight. So yeah, we appreciate all the support. Thank you so much, everybody, for stopping by. So yeah, we're gonna rate Women's Wrestling Talk in just a minute, but we'll be here next week again for Thursday. But thank you, everybody, for stopping in. Yeah. Have a good night.
Thank you, everybody. There was a lot of you tonight. Otherwise, I'd list you all. But thank you, everyone. It was amazing having an active chat again. Hope to see you again on Thursday to talk about the Fallout show.
Yeah. Good night.